You've been enjoying eggs for years, but did you know some foods can make them dangerous? At Wellness Nest Daily, we're here to help you enjoy your favorite breakfast without the hidden risks. Certain food combos can secretly trigger inflammation and weaken your legs over time. Let's reveal these dangerous pairings and discover smarter, healthier ways to start your day with strength and vitality. 1. Processed meats, a hidden adversary. Every morning, the smell of sizzling bacon used to fill Margaret's kitchen. It was a comforting start to the day. Eggs, sausages, a warm cup of tea. For years, it was her routine, a little tradition that brought back memories of family breakfasts and cozy mornings. But as time passed, Margaret began to notice a nagging stiffness in her knees. The walks she once loved became more tiring, and her joints felt swollen and achy. She thought it was just aging catching up with her, but a gentle nudge from her doctor revealed something surprising. Those tasty slices of bacon and sausages, they were quietly working against her health. Processed meats often come packed with salt, preservatives, and unhealthy fats. For folks over 60, our bodies can react more strongly to those ingredients, especially when paired with eggs. Together, they can stir up inflammation and even raise uric acid levels, something that can lead to gout, a painful condition that attacks the joints. Margaret made a small change. She swapped her processed meats for fresh veggies and whole grains. Within weeks, the difference was clear. Less stiffness, more ease in her steps, and her morning walks became enjoyable again. It's not about giving up all the foods we love, but about finding better choices that help us feel good and stay active. Margaret's story is a gentle reminder. Sometimes what we eat can either weigh us down or lift us up. 2. Refined carbohydrates. The deceptive comfort. Every morning, John, my neighbor in his late 60s, would sit by his kitchen window, sipping coffee and enjoying a soft bagel with scrambled eggs. It was his little comfort, warm, familiar, and easy to prepare. But over time, he began to notice something troubling. By early afternoon, his ankles would swell, and his knees felt unusually stiff, especially after his morning walks. At first, he blamed it on age or the weather. But after chatting with his doctor and doing a little digging, John discovered that his breakfast might be playing a bigger role than he thought. That seemingly harmless bagel? It's made from refined carbohydrates, the kind that have been stripped of most of their fiber and nutrients. These foods digest quickly, causing a spike in blood sugar, and when that happens, the body reacts by releasing chemicals that can lead to inflammation. Worse still, when you pair these refined carbs with protein-heavy foods like eggs, your body works harder to digest it all. This extra effort can stir up even more inflammation, especially for those already dealing with joint pain or swelling. John decided to make a small change. He swapped his morning bagel for whole grain toast and added a side of fresh fruit. Within a couple of weeks, he noticed he wasn't as puffy by midday, and his knees didn't ache as much after his walks. It was a simple shift, but it made a world of difference. Sometimes the little things we eat every day have the biggest impact. 3. Processed cheese, a creamy concern. Eleanor had a morning ritual she cherished, waking up to the smell of toast, eggs sizzling on the pan, and that creamy layer of melted cheese draped lovingly over her breakfast sandwich. It brought her comfort, reminded her of cozy Sunday mornings with her grandchildren, and gave her something to look forward to. But over time, she began noticing a nagging pain in her calves during her evening walks. At first, she blamed it on aging, maybe the weather, or even her old shoes, but the discomfort didn't go away. After a gentle nudge from her daughter, Eleanor took a closer look at her diet. That beloved processed cheese, as it turned out, might have been doing more harm than good. While it's delicious, processed cheese is packed with things our aging bodies no longer handle as well. Saturated fats, hidden additives, and certain milk proteins that can slow down digestion. When paired with eggs, it creates a heavy load that lingers in the stomach, and for some older adults, this can quietly lead to inflammation, especially in areas like the knees and ankles. So Eleanor made a simple swap. Instead of cheese, she tried a few slices of fresh avocado, creamy, full of good fats, and surprisingly satisfying. Not only did her breakfast feel lighter, but she also noticed a spring returning to her step during those evening strolls. It was a small change, but one that made a big difference. Sometimes all it takes is listening to your body and being willing to try something new. 4. Nightshade vegetables, the unexpected culprits. Let me tell you a little story about Tom. He's 72, full of life, and absolutely loves his garden. Every morning, like clockwork, he'd step outside, pick a few ripe tomatoes, and slice them into his eggs. It was his way of starting the day right, fresh, wholesome, and straight from the earth. But then something changed. Tom started feeling a strange tingling in his feet. It wasn't painful exactly, but it was enough to make him wonder what was going on. At first, he thought it was just part of getting older. But when the sensation didn't go away, he began to take a closer look at his habits. A friend mentioned that certain vegetables, like tomatoes, bell peppers, potatoes, and eggplants, can sometimes trigger inflammation in older adults, especially when combined with eggs. These veggies are part of what's called the nightshade family, and while they're healthy for many people, they can irritate the body in subtle ways for others. So, Tom decided to try a little experiment. He stopped adding those vegetables to his breakfast. Within a couple of weeks, the tingling faded. It wasn't magic, just listening to his body. Sometimes the foods we love might not love us back, and a small change can make a big difference. 5. Sugary additions, the sweet saboteurs. Let me tell you a little story about Linda, a warm-hearted woman in her early 70s who loved starting her mornings with a familiar comfort: eggs and a side of sweetened yogurt. It was a routine she had followed for years, one that brought her a sense of joy and familiarity. But over time, she began to notice something troubling. Her fingers felt stiffer in the mornings, and even small tasks like buttoning her blouse became harder. At first, she brushed it off as just getting older. But a casual conversation with her friend at their local community center made her think twice. They talk about how too much added sugar, even from things that seem harmless like fruit-flavored yogurt or orange juice, can quietly cause trouble inside the body. Sugar can sneak in and stir up inflammation, especially when combined with protein-rich foods like eggs. This inflammation can settle in the joints, nerves, and even make tissues feel tight and achy. So Linda made a small change. She swapped the sweetened yogurt for plain Greek yogurt and topped it with a few fresh berries. It gave her that touch of sweetness she loved, without the extra sugar. Within weeks, the stiffness eased, and she felt more like herself again. Sometimes the smallest changes can make the biggest difference. 6. Margarine and butter substitutes, the misleading alternatives. Every morning, George would crack a couple of eggs into his skillet, drop a dollop of margarine, and think he was making a healthy choice. For years, margarine had been marketed as the better option compared to butter: light, heart-friendly, and modern. But as George approached his 70s, he began to notice something. His knees ached more when he got up in the morning, and climbing the stairs felt like a small mountain. At first, he blamed age, as many of us do, but then he stumbled across some information that changed his routine completely. It turns out many margarine and so-called butter substitutes are loaded with trans fats, fats that quietly fuel inflammation in the body. Over time, they can stiffen the arteries and aggravate joint discomfort. George had no idea that the spread he trusted was slowly working against him. So he made a simple change. He switched to olive oil. Nothing fancy, just a drizzle in the pan instead of margarine. A few weeks later, he noticed he could move with a bit more ease. The stiffness didn't vanish overnight, but it softened. That was enough to convince him. Eggs in themselves aren't the enemy. It's what we pair them with that can make all the difference. These days, George adds a handful of sautéed spinach or kale to his breakfast. Sometimes he slices up an avocado or reaches for whole grain toast instead of white bread. On special mornings, he roasts some sweet potatoes for a hearty side. By making a few gentle shifts, George turned his breakfast into a healing ritual, and it all started with letting go of one little tub of margarine. As we've discovered, it's not just what we eat, but how we pair our foods that can shape the way we move, feel, and age. Eggs by themselves are a wonderful source of nourishment, especially for those of us over 60. But when combined with the wrong foods, they can unknowingly contribute to inflammation, joint discomfort, and weaker legs over time. The key takeaway here is this: small, mindful changes in your morning routine can lead to big improvements in how you feel throughout the day. Swapping out processed meats, sugary sides, and inflammatory ingredients for anti-inflammatory companions like leafy greens, avocados, and whole grains can help protect your mobility, reduce stiffness, and support long-term vitality. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. At Wellness Nest Daily, we're here every single morning to share stories, guidance, and gentle reminders to help you live your healthiest, happiest life after 60. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing, leaving a comment, or sharing this with a loved one who might benefit. Let's walk this path of